Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where we take the sources you send us, dig into them, and pull out the key insights. Basically, we do the heavy lifting so you can get informed without feeling buried.
Yeah, a shortcut to understanding complex stuff.
Exactly. And today, we're diving into a narration. Specifically, key chapters from a PDF titled Battle of 10 Kings, a Vedic Epic.
Right. And it's crucial to remember up front, this is a novel. So yes, it draws on the Rigveda, uses archaeological findings from the early Vedic period as inspiration, but
it's fictionalized.
heavily. Things like specific character thoughts, their motivations, exact actions, detailed reconstructions of daily life, rituals, even geography, a lot of that is imaginative storytelling.
So for strictly historical facts or, theological details, you definitely want to check out scholarly sources.
Absolutely. Consider this novel an interpretation and engaging story built around the historical backdrop.
Got it. So our mission today is pretty straightforward. Narrate the main story beats, follow the key characters and their perspectives, leading up to and right after the big event, the Battle of 10 Kings, as it's laid out in this novel.
We'll go chapter by chapter, laying out the narrative as the author presents it.
Perfect. Let's kick things off then with Chapter 1.
Okay, Chapter 1. It really sets the scene. We're with King Sudas. He's the leader of the Bharatas, and he's performing the Ashvamedha ritual, the horse sacrifice.
And this isn't just like a standard religious thing, is it? The text makes it clear it's bigger than that.
Much bigger. It's a major political declaration. Sudas is basically asserting Bharata power, their sovereignty, over the whole Sapta Sindhu region, the land of the 7 rivers.
You get this vivid picture, right? Sudas, his warriors around him, priests led by this figure Vashishta, chanting Vedic hymns, the sacred fire. It's a real show of force.
Definitely. And it hints at Sudas's ambition. He's not content with how things were under his father, Divadasa. The novel mentions Divadasa died in a Yadu raid, not exactly a glorious end.
So Sudas wants something more. To build an empire, leave a stronger legacy.
That's the strong implication. But even amidst all this grandeur, there are these subtle hints of tension.
Like the emissaries from the Puru and Anu tribes.
Exactly. They're watching, being polite, but you get the feeling they're not thrilled about this rising Bharata power. And Sudas himself seems a bit uneasy, like he senses this display might provoke rather than just impress.
And then there's the omen. An old seer gives a warning.
Yeah, an ambiguous one right at the end. It adds this layer of uncertainty, suggests challenges ahead despite the successful ritual. So the chapter ends with Sudas resolved, but the seeds of conflict are definitely there.
Okay, interesting start. So Chapter 2 then, shifts focus.
Big shift. We leave the Ashvamedha ceremony and find Vishwamitra. He's pacing, restless. He's just been dismissed by Sudas as the chief priest.
Quite the contrast, from the ritual's grandeur to Vishwamitra's more simple dwelling.
Austere is the word used. A hermitage, almost. It highlights his fall from favor. And the reason given. Sudas apparently felt uncomfortable with Vishwamitra's power, his ambition.
So he chose Vashishta instead. Someone maybe more manageable.
Someone who perhaps better reflected Sudas's own glory, didn't have quite the same independent weight as Vishwamitra. Seems like a political calculation by Sudas.
But one with big consequences for Vishwamitra.
Huge. And this dismissal seems to be the spark for what happens next. A messenger arrives.
From who?
Chieftain Kavasha of the Purists. And he's worried. He sees the Bharatas getting stronger, Sudas controlling the Parushni River waters.
Which are crucial for the purists, right?
Vital. Kavasha sees this as upsetting the balance, threatening traditions. And he's not alone. The novel mentions other tribes, Yadu, Anu, Turvasa, Druhu. They all see Sudas as a threat.
So Kavasha has an idea.
A united front. A coalition, specifically 10 tribes, to push back against Sudas. And he wants Vishwamitra's help, his guidance, his blessing.
And Vishwamitra. I'm guessing he sees an opportunity here.
Oh, absolutely. It's framed not just as helping threatened tribes, but as his path back. A way to regain influence, maybe get some revenge for Sudas's rejection. It's personal and political all mixed together.
Which leads us straight into Chapter 3, I suppose.
Yep, short but powerful. Vishwamitra basically explodes with rage against Sudas, against Vashishta.
He makes a vow.
A clear vow to take up the cause of these tribes, to channel their anger, forge them into a unified force. He even calls on Agni, the fire god, for strength. It really cements him as the key figure opposing Sudas now.
All right. Then Chapter 4 introduces someone new, Arya.
Yes, a different perspective. Arya. She's the daughter of a Bharata warrior, but her father was killed years ago in a raid by the Yadus.
So that history probably colors how she sees things.
Likely. The focus here is on a recurring vision or dream she has. Down by the Sarasvati River, she sees this radiant, womanly figure emerging from the water.
And what does that mean for her?
It's presented as a source of comfort, of strength, a connection to something ancient, powerful. The Sarasvati itself was obviously a major river, likely sacred, so it's got this deep, almost mystical feel.
Okay, back to the politics in Chapter 5. Kavasha meets Vishwamitra.
They meet face to face, and Kavasha, he's seeking help, but he's cautious. He knows Vishwamitra is powerful, knows about the rivalry with Vashishta, knows why Sudas dismissed him.
He's wary of the sage's own ambitions.
Exactly. Even sages can have agendas. We also get a peek into the Peru Council. The elders are debating this alliance. They see the risks coalitions are unstable, what are Vishwamitra's motives, and the Bharatas are strong.
But Kavasha decides to go for it.
He does. He concludes that doing nothing is the bigger danger. But he sets conditions.
Oh, like what?
He wants Vishwamitra's guidance focused purely on restoring balance, protecting the allies, not just, personal revenge. And he wants divine blessing beyond just Indra, maybe seeking broader legitimacy.
And Vishwamitra agrees.
He agrees, promises to bring the other tribes on board. But then we get Kavasha's private thoughts. His real driver. It's his son, Vritra, protecting his future.
Adds a personal layer. He even prays for him.
Invokes Varuna, the god of cosmic order, for Vritra's strength and protection. It shows his deep paternal concern amidst all the high-stakes politics.
So Chapter 6 must be when Sudas hears about all this.
Yep, news travels, the 10-tribe coalition forming. It hits the Bharata camp. First disbelief, then, suppressed panic.
How does Sudas's inner circle react?
His brother, Drishadvat, he's apparently the aggressive type, wants immediate action, attack now. But the council debates, fortify, attack, try to negotiate.
What does Vashishta advise, the chief priest?
Vashishta counsels caution and preparation, build up defenses, trust in the gods, especially Indra, but be smart, choose your ground, choose your timing carefully.
And Sudas listens to him?
He does. Orders defenses strengthened, sends out scouts. The mood shifts from panic to this sort of grim determination. Sudas himself is reflecting on just how big this coalition is. Unprecedented, really. He knows he needs strategy and divine help.
Makes sense. So Chapter 7, Sudas trying to keep his own side motivated.
Exactly. He's out there boosting morale, visiting the training grounds, sharing hardships, trying to build that unity. But the sheer scale of the enemy alliance is still causing unease.
And that chieftain, Bava, speaks up again.
Yes, Pava. He's worried about committing so many troops way out west near the Parushni, leaving their eastern lands vulnerable, and others agree, particularly chieftains with lands back east.
How does Sudas handle that?
He's annoyed internally, the text says, but tries to reassure them, bind them to the cause. But then, urgent news arrives.
Scouts.
Yeah. The coalition vanguard is moving fast, heading for the Parushni. The threat is immediate now, so Sudas orders heightened alert. They need to march west sooner than planned. Things are accelerating.
Okay, into the seed stuff. Chapter 8, Vishwamitra is still recruiting.
He is. Now he's off to the Anu camp, trying to get them fully committed. Their chieftain, Dasa, is described as, difficult. Proud, easily offended, fiercely independent.
Sounds like a tough negotiation.
It starts that way. Dasa's initial greeting is apparently quite insulting. A power play, maybe? Testing Vishwamitra.
How does Vishwamitra handle it?
Diplomatically. Avoids confrontation, flatters Dasa, appeals to his resentment of Sudas and the Bharatas. He even plays on Dasa's competitiveness.
How so?
He mentions how eager Kavasha and the Puras are, hinting the Puras might end up leading the alliance if the Anis drag their feet. Dasa, being a warrior, likes the idea of battle, of glory.
But he questions Vishwamitra's motives, too.
He does. He asks point blank why Vishwamitra is doing this. Vishwamitra gives a kind of vague answer about seeking lasting influence. It's a complex dance of pride, politics, and manipulation.
Intriguing. What happens in Chapter 9? Vishwamitra doing a ritual.
Yes, seeking clarity, maybe reassurance, a fire ritual.
Yeah.
But he doesn't get a vision of victory.
No. What does he see?
Something disturbing. Fire consuming a battlefield, and then a dark, raging flood. Sweeping warriors away. Utter destruction, but no clear winner.
That must have shaken him.
It does. A moment of cold dread, wondering if the whole war is cursed. It's a glimpse of vulnerability, but his pride kicks back in. He feels he can't turn back now.
Wow. Okay. Chapter 10. Back to Kavasha.
Yeah.
Still building the alliance.
Yeah, he's dealing with the Yadus and Turvasas now. And it's tricky. These tribes have old grudges against each other, lots of accusations flying around.
So Kavasha has to play diplomat again.
Patiently. acknowledges their honor, their grievances, then gently steers them back to the common enemy, Sudas. But privately, Kavasha is getting worried about Vishwamitra.
Yeah.
He feels Vishwamitra is too focused on revenge against Sudas. Kavasha plans to use the sage's influence, yes, but ultimately rely on his own pure strength. He does another prayer to Varuna before heading off to this big oath-swearing ceremony they're planning.
Okay, oath-swearing. Meanwhile, Chapter 11. Arya again. Something suspicious.
Yes, back in the Bharata camp near the Sarasvati, Arya is at a local ritual, a Havan, and notices this stranger. He's acting oddly.
Oh, so?
Doesn't seem like a worshiper. More like he's observing, assessing things, weak points maybe. Arya gets a bad feeling and decides to follow him. She sees him meet secretly with a Bharata camp guard in the bushes. She can't hear everything but catches fragments, crossing points, dike strength, Kavasha.
Spies. And maybe a traitor inside the camp?
Looks that way.
Yeah.
Which leads directly into Chapter 12. Arya reports what she saw.
Who does she tell?
Commander Drishadvat, Sudas' brother. He's initially maybe a bit dismissive, weary, but as Arya gives the details, he gets concerned, takes it seriously.
Does he check it out?
Yes, goes with Arya to the spot, finds the hidden path she mentioned, and even a discarded piece of birch bark with markings on it, confirms their fears. Spies, possible treachery.
What happens then?
Drishadvat praises Arya's courage, sends his soldiers to investigate further. Arya feels relieved she did her duty, but also uneasy. Guilty, maybe, about the consequences for the guard, the stranger.
Understandable. While that's happening, Chapter 13, Vashishta is doing his thing.
Vashishta is performing a powerful ritual, seeking divine protection for the Bharatas, confusion for their enemies. The text says he feels a strong connection to Indra.
And Sudas comes to him, still worried.
Yes, despite all the preparations, Sudas is feeling the pressure, expresses his fear, his doubts, given the size of the coalition against him.
How does Vashishta respond?
Reassures him, says numbers aren't everything, cosmic forces are at play. He subtly casts doubt on Vishwamitra's motives again, reminds Sudas of Indra's power, urges vigilance, trust in Harappa courage, and importantly, keep up the rituals to Indra.
And then, Chapter 14, something dramatic happens. A storm.
A huge storm erupts right over the Bharata camp. Vashishta sees this as undeniable proof. Indra is present, showing his power, signaling judgment in their favor.
So for Vashishta, this confirms everything.
Absolutely. His resolve hardens into certainty. He's fully committed to guiding Sudas.
Okay, turning tide, perhaps. What about the other side? Chapter 15, the allied chieftains meet.
Yeah, Vishwamitra arrives at a meeting of the allied leaders, and it's tense. An argument breaks out immediately.
Oh, what?
Dasa, the Anu chieftain, again, is arguing with another leader, Ganda, about where their troops should be positioned in the upcoming battle. Classic coalition problems.
Vishwamitra must be frustrated.
Internally, yes. Especially with Dasa's pride. He has to step in forcefully, remind them they're supposed to be equals in this, focused on the common enemy. He quells the argument for now, but you can tell the tensions are simmering just below the surface.
Chapter 16, Kavasha observing all this.
Yes, Kavasha watches this uneasy gathering. He's really concerned about how fragile their unity is. It seems only Vishwamitra's authority and their shared fear of Sudas holds them together, not exactly a strong foundation.
He finds some comfort watching his son, Vritra.
Yeah, a brief moment watching Vritra practice chariot skills. A reminder of his personal stake in all this.
Then Chapter 17, the big oath-swearing ceremony Vishwamitra planned.
Yes, it happens. A grand event before they launch their assault. Big gathering, altar to Varuna, Vishwamitra taking center stage, very dramatic.
What's his message?
He invokes Varuna, god of cosmic order, portrays Sudas as the one breaking that order, the transgressor, and the coalition. They are the righteous ones, restoring balance.
How does Kavasha feel watching this?
Still uneasy. The ceremony feels grand, but he has this growing sense of foreboding, like the outward show doesn't quite match the shaky reality underneath.
Meanwhile, back with Arya in Chapter 18, she's moved closer to the action.
Yes, she's traveled to the Bharata camp nearer the Parushni River. The mood there is even more focused, very martial.
And she notices something. That path again.
Not exactly the same path, but she finds another less used trail. This one leads up to a wooded ridge overlooking the Bharata lines. She gets a strong feeling it's important.
So she investigates.
Quietly follows it. And what does she see? Puru warriors using this hidden path too. Another secret route for the enemy.
Wow. Okay, Chapter 19. She reports this one too.
Straight to Drishadvat again. He takes it very seriously this time, goes with her to check it out, confirms it's concealed, strategically vital.
What does he do?
Acts fast. Sends warriors across the river to follow the path on the enemy side, figure out its purpose. And crucially, he sets an ambush along the path on their side, the Bharata side.
Does the ambush work?
Yes. It's described as brief, brutal. Bharata warriors catch several Puru warriors using the path, kill them. Arya's vigilance pays off again, disrupting the enemy's plans.
Intense. Chapter 20. Suda's watching his own defenses.
Yes, overseeing the final preparations along the Parushni, he's making grim calculations, visualizing the battle, but then trouble.
Mahava again, that anxious chieftain.
Mahava again. But this time he's not alone. He brings mutinous warriors with him. He's basically freaking out about defending near the dikes, wants to pull back.
How does Sudas react to open mutiny?
He confronts Bava directly, reminds him sharply of the strategic reasons for their position, appeals to his loyalty, his courage. Bava reluctantly backs down, agrees to hold the line, but the fear is palpable.
Adds another layer of pressure on Sudas. Okay, chapter 21. A meeting between the big guns, Vashishta and Vishwamitra.
A parley, yes. They meet in a neutral place. The contrast is stark. Vashishta calm, serene, Vishwamitra sharp, sarcastic, full of anger.
What do they argue about?
Vishwamitra paints the coalition as freedom fighters against Sudas's tyranny. Vashishta counters, invoking Indra, talking about a king's duty, Rajadharma, saying Sudas is just protecting his people, asserting sovereignty. He implies the coalition is just driven by envy.
So a clash of ideologies, spiritual power.
Absolutely. The tension is thick. Vishwamitra eventually loses his cool a bit, his personal rivalry with Vashishta showing through. Vashishta senses just how dangerously committed Vishwamitra is, the power he commands. He goes back to Sudas with a warning about the true depth of the enemy's resolve.
Heavy stuff. Chapter 22, the night before the battle. The coalition's final oath.
Yes, the formal oath-swearing for the 10 allied chieftains. Fire altar to Varuna again, warriors assembled, lots of nervous energy.
Vishwamitra leads it.
He does. Invokes Varuna again, repeats his message. Sudas is the violator. They are restoring order. Kavasha watches the other chieftains, noticing their different levels of commitment, some hiding reluctance, still fragile.
Chapter 23. Quick check-in with Arya.
Just briefly, she sees more Bharata military activity near her settlement, and notably sees those Puru prisoners being brought in from the earlier skirmish, a reminder of the real consequences.
In chapter 24, Arya's back at that ridge, late at night.
Yes, drawn back there. She sees Bharata warriors reinforcing defenses along the riverbank nearby. It reinforces her belief that the hidden path is a critical point and needs to be fully secured.
Chapter 25. Sudas and Drishadvat talking strategy. Near the dikes.
Final preparations. Sudas is thinking about his father's legacy and the destructive potential of those river dikes they're defending. Drishadvat is confident in their plans.
But Pava interrupts again. Still anxious.
Over the edge now. Urging retreat, questioning Sudas's entire strategy right before the battle. Sudas has to rebuke him firmly, lay out the strategic reasons again, demand absolute steadfastness. The pressure on Sudas is immense.
Chapter 26. Sudas reflecting on all this.
Yes. Thinking about Vashishta's warning about Vishwamitra's bitterness, and crucially thinking about his own dream, the one he interprets as Indra's command.
He's wrestling with the morality of using the river, the dikes, as a weapon.
Deeply. He knows how devastating it would be, but the dream. It strengthens his conviction that it's what Indra wants, that it's the path, maybe the only path to victory. A heavy decision weighing on him.
Okay, chapter 27, Vishwamitra's final preparations.
He's observing the vast allied army he brought together, but he feels its fragility, despite the oaths. He gives one last fiery speech to the chieftains and warriors, hammering on their grievances against Sudas.
Still noticing Dasa acting independently.
Yeah, Dasa the Enu. Still seems a bit detached, not fully under Vishwamitra's sway. A sign of the cracks in the coalition.
Chapter 28, Vishwamitra's last ritual. Desperate for a good sign.
One last attempt, a fire ritual seeking a clear sign of victory, and he gets a vision.
A good one this time.
No.
Oh.
Terrifyingly clear. He sees the Parushni River rising, destroying his allied forces as they cross. The Bharatas are safe on high ground. He sees total defeat delivered by the river itself.
Oh, wow. How does he react?
Ice-cold terror washes over him. He knows what's coming, but he forces himself to go through with it. Pride, momentum, he feels he can't stop it now.
Chilling. Okay, chapter 29, Dawn, Battle Day.
Kavasha moves through the Puru camp, grim, determined. But then another argument breaks out among the allied chieftains.
Seriously. Now, about what?
Battle order. Who goes where? Highlighting their disunity right at the critical moment. Vishwamitra has to intervene again with a harsh threat this time to force them into line.
Kavasha must be having serious doubts.
Major doubts. Vishwamitra does a quick ritual on the riverbank before they start crossing, but the omen hangs heavy. Then Kavasha says goodbye to Vritra. Poignant. Entrusting the future to his son. He clearly fears the worst.
Chapter 30. Sudas gets the readiness report.
Yes, Drishavat reports already, and mentions that thunderclap earlier they're taking it as Indra's omen. It boosted morale.
Sudas reflects one last time.
Thinks about the fight ahead, his warriors, his strategy, divine favor. Thinks about Kavasha, Vishwamitra, even Arya briefly. Then he gives a powerful speech to his army loyalty, ancestors, Indra. Rallies them.
In Chapter 31, the crossing begins.
The allied forces start moving across the Parushni. Kavasha leads the Purus right into the teeth of the prepared Bharata defenses.
Vishwamitra's doing a ritual on the bank.
Yes, but the narrative says his power feels weaker, diminished, maybe because of the vision he had. Kavasha feels it too, a cold dread, wonders if the gods have abandoned them.
How does the initial charge go?
It falters. The Bharata defense is disciplined, well-positioned. Suda's preparations are holding, at least initially.
Okay. Chapter 32. The battle is raging now.
Full chaos on the banks. Suda's watches. His defenses are bending under the sheer number of attackers. Despite the allies' initial problems, enough have made it across to really press the Bharatas hard.
This is the critical moment for Sudas.
Yes. He remembers his father's death, sees his brother fighting, thinks of the dream again. He hardens his heart.
It gives the order.
He gives the order to Ushna regarding the dikes.
Oh boy. Chapter 33. The flood.
A massive surge of water erupts from downstream. The dikes have been breached or open. It crashes into the flank and rear of the allied forces, the ones crossing, the ones fighting in the shallows.
Devastating.
Utterly wipes them out. Vishwamitra watches in horror, disbelief. His army just obliterated by the river. His prayers to Varuna feel useless.
Chapter 34. The aftermath.
The water recedes. The scale of the defeat is catastrophic. Vishwamitra confronts Vashishta, accusing him of treachery, blaming him for the drowned warriors.
What does Vashishta say?
Something cryptic about Indra's path being harsh. Sudas, despite winning, feels numb. Haunted by the cost, the bodies in the river, the coalition is completely shattered, survivors fleeing randomly.
Chapter 35. Vishwamitra doesn't give up.
Tries to rally the survivors, urges a retreat east to the Yamuna River, make another stand. It's a desperate gamble, born of humiliation.
He reflects on his role in this.
Yes, grapples with his pride, his manipulations, how they led to this disaster, considers giving it all up, seeking real wisdom, but
his pride wins out.
His Kshatriya spirit, his pride, it reasserts itself. He clings to the hope of a second chance somehow.
Chapter 36. The battlefield. The morning plains.
A grim name. Heavy silence, broken by the wounded, the grieving, the smell of death, part at the victory but at a terrible price. Arya is there, moving among the suffering, tending to the wounded from both sides.
Chapter 37. Arya hearing the real stories.
Yes, not the heroic hymns, but the brutal reality from survivors. She tends to captured enemies, like a young Puru warrior.
How do the Bharata warriors react to that?
Badly. Some want the Puru left to die. Arya argues for mercy, for common humanity. She feels stronger than ever that this cycle of hate has to stop. Praised by the Sarasvati for guidance.
Chapter 38. Back in the Bharata main camp.
Some orders returning, but mourning is heavy. Sudas overlooks the battlefield, haunted by the flood, starts questioning if Indra really wanted such slaughter.
Drishadvat wants to finish the job.
Yes. Reports on chasing the survivors, urges hunting down Kavasha and Vishwamitra to end the threat for good. But Sudas hesitates, remembering Vashishta's advice about restraint.
Chapter 39. Vashishta's counsel continues.
Advises Sudas to honor their own dead, yes, but also perform rites for the enemy dead. Cautions against vengeance. Focus on consolidating the victory, healing.
Sudas agrees to the rites.
Orders Shraddha rites for everyone, a significant gesture. But he also tells his commanders he is going east after Vishwamitra and Kavasha. So a mix of ritual duty and strategic pursuit.
Chapter 40. A quick look at the fleeing coalition.
Just described as demoralized, leaderless, heading east. Vishwamitra among them, lost in thought.
Chapter 41. Kavasha's escape.
He's with Vritra and a few Puru survivors, teaching Vritra practical survival skills now. Not heroic fighting, but caution, observation, finding resources, how to stay alive.
Chapter 42. They reach King Veda, seeking refuge.
Yes, Kavasha and Vishwamitra arrive at Beta's territory. Beta greets Kavasha formally, but you can tell he's weighing things up. How strong are they really? What's the risk versus reward of helping them? It's purely pragmatic negotiation now. Survival.
Chapter 43. Arya, still helping prisoners. Facing backlash.
Still tending the wounded, yes. And still getting hostility from some Bharata warriors. But she persists, believing in connection. She even pleads directly with Bharata leaders for mercy for the Puru prisoners.
Her argument?
That cruelty just breeds more revenge later. Sparing them shows true Bharata honor.
Chapter 44. Arya's vision again. By the Sarasvati.
A really significant one this time. She sees a future of lasting peace, dialogue, justice, representatives from all tribes in a council at Kurukshetra.
And the river gives her a message. Clear message. Bridge the divides, hold the vision, prepare the way. It solidifies her resolve. This is her work now.
Chapter 45. Sudas marching east with Vashishta.
Yes, the pursuit continues. Vashishta is with him, providing counsel. Vashishta also observes Vishwamitra's path, seeing it as driven by vengeance, potentially self-destructive. The contrast between them is stark.
Chapter 46. Sudas still wrestling with the Parushni victory.
Seeks Vashishta's counsel again, still troubled by using the river. Vashishta talks about compassion being true strength, binding people through oaths, not fear.
What about the upcoming fight at the Yamuna?
Vashishta interprets a vision he had Indra offering the Vajra weapon as meaning victory at the Yamuna is inevitable. But he warns Sudas against annihilation. Win, but show restraint.
Chapter 47. Vishwamitra at Beta's camp. How's the new alliance?
The fragile. He arrives to find the chieftains already bickering again. He has to forcefully impose order, reminding them their disunity caused the Parushni disaster. Internally, he feels abandoned by the gods, running purely on pride now. Chapter 48. The mood in the allied camp near the Yamuna.
Tense, apprehensive. Kavasha is preparing his Puru remnants, advising Data. His own gut feelings offer no hope of victory. He says goodbye to Vritra again. Final farewell this time, it feels like.
Chapter 49. While Sudas marches, Arya is organizing back home.
Yes, relief efforts, building community among displaced families, and importantly, pushing to include Puru refugees in the aid, still working on reconciliation.
Chapter 50. Baba objects to helping refugees.
Yes, argues resources should go to the army fighting at the Yamuna. Arya counters strongly. The kingdom's strength is all its people. Showing humanity to former enemies is Bharata honor, and she's starting to win people over.
Chapter 51. Another vision for Arya.
At the Sarasvati again. Sees a unified kingdom thriving through justice, mutual respect, the river's message. This is the true victory. Hold this vision. Your work prepares the ground, reinforces her path.
Chapter 52. Sudas's army reaches the Yamuna.
Vishwamitra urges Beta and Kavasha to attack immediately, before Bharata reinforcements might arrive. Kavasha prepares for battle with a sense of grim fatalism.
Chapter 53. More arguments among the allies.
Yep, over battle positions again. Vishwamitra has to lay down the law forcefully one more time. Their unity is paper-thin.
Chapter 54. The allied camp waits.
Filled with fear, Kavasha readies his purists for the final fight. Bids that last farewell to Vritra.
Chapter 55. Arya's work back home showing results.
Yes, subtle shifts, attitudes changing, some cooperation starting between different groups. Her efforts at reconciliation are beginning to bear fruit.
Chapter 56. Sudas's battle plan for the Yamuna.
Focuses on breaking the enemy flanks. He tasks Drishadvat with leading that key flanking attack, a clear tactical plan.
Chapter 57. Vashishta's ritual before this battle. Another storm.
Yes, performs a ritual, and another powerful storm rolls in, interpreted again as Indra's favor. Sudas feels the power of the omen, but he's also aware of the potential cost, the human price of these divine interventions.
Chapter 58. The Battle of the Yamuna begins.
Starts amidst the chaos of the storm. Vishwamitra realizes his spiritual power is definitely diminished now. Sudas's strategy, the flanking maneuver, starts working effectively.
Chapter 59. A vision for Vishwamitra during the battle.
A fleeting one, a fading flame, and he hears the word humility. A last chance for him to change.
Does he?
No. He considers surrender for a moment, but his pride, his warrior spirit won't let him. He resolves to fight to the end.
Chapter 60. Vashishta declares victory.
Seeing the way things are going, boosted by the storm, he tells Sudas Indra grants them victory, but immediately urges wisdom, restraint in that victory. Plant seeds of peace now.
Chapter 61. Arya, still working with refugees.
Continues her work, fostering connection even as the second battle rages.
Chapter 62. The climax. Sudas versus Kavasha.
Sudas leads his guard towards Kavasha. Their chariots clash. Direct combat. Sudas kills Kavasha.
A major moment. Chapter 63, the battle ends.
Bharatas win decisively at the Yamuna. And Sudas, remembering Vashishta's words, orders the killing to stop. Shows restraint.
He mourns Kavasha.
Yes, respects his fallen enemy. Drushadvat wants to hunt down Vritra, Kavasha's son, but Sudas refuses. Lets him go. A conscious choice for justice over vengeance, reflecting on past costs.
Chapter 64. What happened to Vishwamitra?
He flees the battlefield again. Ambition totally shattered. Resolves to go into the wilderness, undertake extreme austerities, gain immense power. A different path now, driven by failure.
Chapter 65. A final moment for Kavasha.
Just shown dying on the field. Thoughts on Vritra, the past,
Chapter 66.
and Vritra.
Flees, having seen his father die, his future uncertain.
Chapter 67. Sudas enforces the restraint.
Yes, actively stops further bloodshed, chooses mercy, reflects on Kavasha's bravery, hopes to break the cycle of war, agrees with Vashishta about integrating the defeated tribes.
Chapter 68. Arya's idea takes shape. The Great Council.
She formally proposes it, a permanent body for intertribal dialogue, justice. Sudas supports it, a concrete step towards revision.
Chapter 69. Vashishta's focus shifts.
Consolidating the legacy. Finishes his hymn about the battle, trains his disciples, emphasizing deeper Vedic meanings, dharma, ensuring the traditions endure.
Chapter 70. Jump forward. Vishwamitra in the forest. Decades pass. He's still at it. Extreme asceticism, relentlessly seeking power to surpass Vashishta. Agni appears, confirms his potential, but warns him again about pride. He plans to return eventually with immense, unpredictable power, still a potential threat.
Chapter 71. Drushadvat's perspective, later on.
Sees the Kuru kingdom thriving, looks back and acknowledges the wisdom of Sudas's choices, the balance, the justice. Admits it worked.
Okay, this section called Farewell. Vashishta retiring.
Preparing for it. Content the kingdom is flourishing, Vedic ways will continue through his students. Gives final advice to Sudas. Compassion, righteous rule. Blesses Arya's work with the council, envisions his legacy continuing.
A chant of unity.
A symbolic scene. Arya leads the great council, voices from different tribes, formerly enemies, chanting together, representing the unity achieved, the Kuru identity formed.
Ascetic's vision. Back to Vishwamitra.
Briefly, still in the forest, still laser-focused on gaining power, his ambition hasn't faded.
And the final chapter. A wrap-up.
Decades later, the Kuru kingdom is prosperous under Sudas's just rule, guided by the council. Disputes are handled through dialogue, not war. Vashishta's wisdom is still influential. The memory of the wars serves as a reminder of the value of peace. Final image. Sudas, old, wise, respected, overseeing a peaceful realm, but always aware conflict could return.
Right, and that brings our narration of these key chapters from Battle of 10 Kings to a close. We've traced this fictional epic, the clash, the terrible costs, the different paths characters took, and those first fragile steps towards something like unity.
And just to underline it one last time, it's a novel, inspired by history, yes, but a fictional take on those events and people.
Definitely worth keeping in mind. So for you listening, maybe think about the big themes here. Ambition, revenge, leadership, the sheer cost of war, and that really difficult path towards peace, towards reconciliation. What stood out most to you? What questions does this story, even fictionalized, leave you with about power, about how societies heal or don't?
Yeah, lots to chew on. And we always encourage exploring the actual historical context, too. As always, if you stumble upon sources you think would make for a fascinating deep dive, please do send them our way. We love seeing what you're curious about.